You think you can intimidate anyone you want. The voice echoed sharply across the nearly empty cafe, and for a moment the world seemed to slow. Outside, the rain fell in a steady drizzle, the streets slick with reflections of neon signs that flickered with a cold yellow glow. Pedestrians hurried along the sidewalk, umbrellas bobbing like black sails against the gray sky, but inside, the cafe felt like a suspended bubble of tension. Officer Ryan Keller stood near the counter, badge glinting faintly under the warm light, a smirk playing across his lips as he glanced at the woman approaching him with measured steps. Maya Johnson moved calmly, her posture straight, eyes scanning the room with the kind of quiet authority that drew attention without demanding it. Her tailored navy blazer hugged her form precisely, her heels clicking softly on the polished hardwood floor with a rhythm that seemed to echo the slow pulse of her resolve. Around them, a few early morning customers sipped their coffees, casting curious glances, some whispering, yet none dared intervene. Ryan's hand hovered near his belt, an unconscious display of power, while Maya's gaze remained unflinching, a slight furrow of concentration hinting at the focus beneath her calm exterior. She adjusted the strap of her leather satchel, inside which lay documents carefully secured, a subtle reminder of her hidden authority and the weight of responsibility she carried. The tension thickened like fog as Ryan leaned slightly forward, voice dropping to a tone meant to unsettle, words dripping with condescension, yet Maya only nodded politely, acknowledging his presence without reacting to his provocation. Every movement, every breath, felt amplified. The cafe seemed to contract around them, the muffled hum of the espresso machine punctuating the silent standoff. Maya's mind was steady, recalling the countless hours of training, the lessons in restraint, the meticulous attention to procedure that had defined her career. She didn't flinch as Ryan chuckled, a sound meant to provoke fear, his eyes scanning her face for the slightest sign of uncertainty. Instead, she allowed a faint smile, not of amusement, but of quiet confidence, to touch her lips, signaling that she understood the game unfolding. As the barista poured a fresh cup of coffee, the aroma briefly mingled with the tension, a small, grounding sensory detail amid the growing anticipation. Outside, a car passed slowly, tires hissing on the wet pavement, shadows shifting against the glass walls of the cafe. Yet Maya remained singularly focused, every fiber of her being attuned to the unfolding moment. Ryan's smirk faltered slightly, the first crack in his overconfidence, and he straightened, trying to regain control, unaware that the woman in front of him was more than a civilian or a bystander. Maya's eyes flicked toward a discreet security camera in the corner, a tool for observation, a reminder that power can be measured in subtlety as well as overt force. Time seemed to elongate as the seconds stretched, the distant rumble of thunder underscoring the slow-building realization that the perceived imbalance of power might soon shift. She shifted her weight subtly, every motion deliberate, a silent message that she was aware of both the potential threat and the boundaries that governed proper conduct. The cafe's ambient noise became background static to the sharp clarity of the standoff, a stage set for an inevitable revelation that neither words nor raised voices could accelerate. And through it all, Maya's heartbeat remained steady, a metronome of control, guiding her through the tension, each breath a calculated anchor, as if the very air around her had been charged with the knowledge that when the moment came, everything would be revealed without haste or spectacle, only the quiet, undeniable assertion of authority that demanded recognition in its own right. The cafe remained suspended in a tense silence, the soft hiss of the espresso machine and the clinking of cups forming an almost hypnotic background to the charged atmosphere. Maya Johnson's eyes scanned the room methodically, noting the angles of light and shadow that fell across the faces of the few early patrons, each detail catalogued in her mind with precision. She adjusted her satchel slightly, her fingers brushing the smooth leather, a tactile reminder of the weight she carried both literally and figuratively. Outside, rain streaked down the windows in long, glossy ribbons, distorting the city beyond into streaks of color and motion, but inside, everything seemed slow, deliberate, each heartbeat amplified in the quiet. Officer Ryan Keller shifted slightly, glancing around as though searching for validation from the environment, the slight tension in his shoulders betraying the uncertainty beneath his authoritative posture. Maya's lips curved into a calm, controlled smile, not mocking, but measured, a quiet signal that she recognized the stakes and had long anticipated moments like this. She inhaled slowly, taking in the faint aroma of roasted coffee beans mingling with the crisp scent of rain on the air, letting the sensory details anchor her as she maintained her composure. Ryan's eyes flickered toward the barista, then back to Maya, a subtle twitch in his jaw betraying a flicker of doubt. Maya's posture did not waver, each movement economical yet purposeful, projecting a quiet confidence that seemed to subtly alter the rhythm of the space around her. The hum of conversation from the few patrons who dared whisper created a backdrop to the silent dialogue unfolding between the two figures. She allowed herself a brief internal survey, noting exits, the proximity of tables, the movement of staff, all in preparation, not for confrontation, but for control of the environment. The café, with its warm lighting and muted hum of activity, had become a stage for a silent contest, and every slight shift of weight, every glance, carried meaning beyond the ordinary. Ryan's smirk tightened into a faint line, a micro-expression of unease as he realized the balance of authority might be less absolute than he had assumed. Maya subtly tapped a pen against her satchel, a tiny, deliberate motion that suggested awareness of her surroundings and readiness to act within the bounds of law and procedure. A small bell jingled as another customer entered, the sound momentarily drawing Ryan's attention and allowing Maya to reinforce her mental clarity, the quiet power in her poise radiating without a single word spoken. Outside, the city seemed blurred, wet reflections of streetlights stretching across the sidewalks, but Maya's focus remained absolute, each sense tuned to the interactions within the café, the tension, the silent signals of authority and recognition. Ryan shifted his weight again, his earlier confidence slightly diminished, his presence still imposing, yet now tempered by the unspoken realization that the person before him operated under a different set of parameters, one defined by law, experience, and meticulous preparation. Maya's gaze remained steady, a controlled metronome of calm in the center of the storm, and she allowed the room to settle, the quiet authority of her presence influencing the subtle microdynamics of space. Each patron's glance and posture adjusted unconsciously in response to her poised demeanor. The rain outside intensified, pattering against the glass and creating a rhythmic background, but Maya's focus was undisturbed, her attention entirely on the unfolding situation, her internal state a blend of measured awareness and deliberate patience, a reminder that influence can be exerted without force, that presence and preparation alone can command respect and subtly shift the balance of power. The space between her and Ryan seemed to stretch, charged with anticipation, each second a careful negotiation of awareness. And as she adjusted her stance slightly, the quiet confidence in her movements communicated an unspoken message that she was fully aware of the dynamic at play, and that the outcome, though yet unseen, would be guided by deliberate judgment and controlled authority rather than impulse or intimidation. The subtle tension in the café began to ripple outward, each patron sensing the delicate balance between presence and authority, though unaware of the full weight carried by Maya Johnson. Her fingers brushed lightly against the corner of her satchel, a gesture so natural yet deliberate, signaling readiness and the quiet assurance of experience. Outside, the rain continued to cascade in fine sheets, tracing rivers down the glass windows and distorting the reflections of streetlights into shimmering streaks of gold and white, the world beyond moving in blurred motion, while the interior remained sharply focused on the interplay of awareness and intent. Officer Ryan Keller shifted again, his posture slightly more rigid, the confident smirk now tempered by a flicker of uncertainty that Maya noted without surprise, her calm demeanor acting as both shield and signal. The café, a space of warm amber light and the subtle aroma of fresh espresso, seemed to contract around them, each sound and movement magnified. The scrape of a chair leg, the gentle hiss of the coffee machine, the rustle of paper from a nearby newspaper, each element contributing to the heightened awareness in the room. Maya's eyes scanned the space, observing the subtle micro-expressions of those around, noting the slight turn of a head, the brief pause in conversation, all of which reflected the unconscious acknowledgment of her authority. She breathed evenly, each inhalation a quiet anchor, each exhalation a deliberate release of tension, her internal rhythm harmonizing with the measured flow of her surroundings. Ryan's gaze lingered for a moment too long on her satchel, perhaps unconsciously recognizing the potential within, yet unable to articulate it. His own internal monologue, a series of competing assertions of control that were gradually undermined by Maya's composed presence. The rain's steady cadence against the windows provided a rhythmic underscore, reinforcing the sense that time itself had slowed within this small, charged environment, each second stretching with significance, each movement weighted with unspoken meaning. Maya subtly shifted her weight, allowing her presence to occupy the space fully, a nonverbal command of attention that subtly influenced the body language and posture of everyone in the room without a single word. The soft hum of the espresso machine punctuated the silence, a constant reminder of routine amidst the heightened awareness, while the low murmur of the few patrons became almost imperceptible against the quiet, deliberate energy radiating from Maya. Officer Keller exhaled slowly, the subtle release of breath betraying a recognition, however nascent, that the dynamics of authority were not as unilateral as he had assumed. Maya's composed attention had reframed the environment, asserting her presence as an unspoken but undeniable force. Her eyes moved deliberately, scanning the café, noting exit routes, angles of light, positions of tables and chairs, every detail cataloged for situational awareness, a mental map overlaying the physical space in a manner that was precise and controlled. The ambient lighting cast soft shadows, highlighting the contours of her features, yet her expression remained neutral, composed, a masterclass in restraint and quiet command. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming lightly on the roof and window panes. Yet within the café, the atmosphere remained concentrated, a microcosm where presence, preparation, and poise dictated the flow of interaction. Maya's subtle adjustments, a tilt of her head, the placement of her hands, the measured cadence of her movements, communicated confidence and readiness, influencing the small, almost imperceptible behavioral shifts of those nearby. Ryan's smirk had all but disappeared now, replaced by a tentative, almost imperceptible tightening of his jaw, as if the realization that authority could manifest without overt assertion was slowly taking hold. Each breath, each micro-gesture, each careful survey of the space reinforced Maya's silent assertion of control, creating a palpable, almost tactile tension that defined the room. She exhaled deliberately, a quiet statement of presence, her body language perfectly synchronized with the rhythm of the café, commanding respect and attention while maintaining an aura of calm, collected authority that left the surrounding patrons subtly, yet unmistakably, aware that the balance of power had shifted, not through confrontation, but through composed mastery of awareness, patience, and controlled, deliberate action. The soft hum of the espresso machine continued to fill the café, blending seamlessly with the muted patter of rain against the windows and the occasional creak of the polished hardwood floor. Maya Johnson's gaze remained steady on Officer Ryan Keller, noting the subtle shift in his posture, the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his hands unconsciously twitched near his belt. She adjusted the strap of her satchel with deliberate ease, every movement precise, controlled, a quiet demonstration of authority without a single word. The lighting inside the café cast gentle shadows across the room, highlighting the contours of her face, yet her expression remained calm, almost serene, a counterpoint to the flicker of uncertainty that now danced across Ryan's features. Patrons who had been quietly sipping coffee began to sense the charged atmosphere, their hushed whispers fading into the background as they unconsciously mirrored the tension in their body language. Maya's internal rhythm remained unshaken, a metronome of calm awareness, each inhale steady, each exhale measured, as she scanned the room, noting the positions of tables, chairs, and even the subtle angle of light reflecting off the windows. Ryan's gaze wavered for a moment, his earlier smirk now replaced by a faint tightening of his jaw. an imperceptible flicker of recognition that the dynamics of control were not as unilateral as he had assumed. Outside, the rain intensified, tracing rivers down the glass. Yet within the café, time seemed to stretch, each second laden with silent anticipation, the micro-movements of both figures amplifying the tension. Maya allowed herself a subtle shift of weight, the soft click of her heels against the floor a gentle punctuation that reinforced her presence, commanding attention without a word, influencing the room's energy through composure and poise alone. Ryan's eyes darted momentarily to the barista, then back to her, as if seeking some unseen reassurance. Yet Maya's steady gaze offered no compromise, only the quiet authority of someone fully aware of her environment and the power she wielded within it. The soft rustle of paper from a nearby patron provided a fleeting distraction, but Maya's attention never wavered, each sense attuned to movement, tone, and presence within the space, cataloging every detail with meticulous precision. The ambient aroma of roasted coffee beans mixed with the clean scent of rain on the windows, grounding her awareness, allowing her to maintain a composed yet commanding presence that subtly shifted the perception of everyone in the room. Ryan's smirk had nearly vanished now, replaced by a tentative line of unease as he became increasingly conscious of the invisible influence Maya exerted through stillness and confidence alone. Her fingers brushed lightly against the corner of her satchel again, a seemingly mundane motion, yet each movement deliberate, an unspoken signal of readiness and control, reinforcing the subtle but undeniable shift in the balance of authority. The cafe's warm light reflected off the wet pavement outside, creating shimmering, elongated patterns that mirrored the tense interplay within, shadows stretching across the floor as if emphasizing the pause between action and awareness. Maya's stance shifted imperceptibly, her body language calibrated to project calm, measured power, a silent reminder that influence and command need not be loud or aggressive to be recognized. Every breath, every glance, every subtle adjustment communicated clarity of purpose and the quiet certainty of preparation, creating an environment where even without words, the authority she commanded reshaped the energy of the space. Ryan Keller's confidence continued to erode, his posture now more cautious, each micro-expression betraying a dawning understanding that control could manifest without overt force, that presence alone could recalibrate the assumptions of dominance. Maya's eyes scanned the room once more, cataloging subtle cues from the patrons, the furniture, and the light itself, reinforcing her comprehensive awareness, a lattice of perception that ensured she maintained full command of both space and moment. The rain outside created a gentle, rhythmic backdrop, yet inside, the weight of observation and anticipation thickened the air, each heartbeat measured, each pause significant, every subtle gesture a reminder of the power inherent in restraint, preparation, and the unspoken assertion of authority that had quietly reshaped the dynamic within the café. The subtle tension that had filled the café began to evolve into a palpable sense of anticipation, each movement and breath carrying weight as if the air itself were charged with expectation. Maya Johnson remained poised, her gaze sweeping across the room, noting the angles of light reflecting off the wet streets beyond the windows, the faint shimmer of neon that painted the interior with muted streaks of color. Her satchel rested securely against her side, every fold and crease carefully aligned, a symbol of the meticulous attention to detail that had guided her career and now commanded the space without a single word. Officer Ryan Keller shifted again, subtly, almost imperceptibly, yet the change was noticed by Maya, her awareness attuned to the smallest indicators of psychological state, body language, and intent. The gentle hiss of the espresso machine, the clinking of cups, and the muted conversations of the early patrons all blended into a soft ambient background. Yet within that gentle rhythm, the tension between the two figures remained focused and sharp. Maya allowed a brief, measured inhale, a conscious action that reinforced her presence and control, a signal of calm authority that seemed to ripple outward, affecting the posture and attention of everyone within the space. Ryan's expression flickered, the faintest crease appearing between his brows as he processed the unspoken assertion of influence, his earlier bravado tempered by the subtle cues emanating from Maya. The cafe itself seemed to respond to the energy within, the warm amber light reflecting off polished surfaces, creating shadows that danced gently, echoing the nuanced shifts of the moment. Maya's hands remained relaxed yet intentional, her fingers brushing the smooth leather of her satchel occasionally, each motion deliberate and communicative, a silent reinforcement of the authority she held. Outside, the rain continued its steady rhythm, creating blurred reflections that mirrored the focused intensity inside, the city moving in a slow, diffused haze beyond the glass. Maya's eyes moved fluidly, scanning, cataloging, and processing each detail with the precision of experience, noting patrons' micro-expressions, subtle movements, and the unspoken acknowledgment of her composure. Ryan's confidence waned further, each subtle motion betraying an internal recalibration as he sensed the balance of presence shifting without overt confrontation. Maya adjusted her stance slightly, allowing the natural sway of movement to reinforce her controlled command, her posture radiating calm authority and quiet decisiveness. The muted hum of conversation and the soft patter of rain became a backdrop against which her presence stood clear, distinct, and commanding, every breath and gesture reinforcing her influence over the space and the unfolding dynamic. Ryan's eyes darted briefly, seeking validation or reinforcement from the surroundings, yet Maya's steady gaze provided no concessions, only the clear, unflinching projection of controlled authority. Each second stretched with significance, every micro-movement laden with meaning, as Maya continued to guide the energy of the cafe through her presence alone. The subtle interplay of light, shadow, and motion framed the interaction, every patron unconsciously aligning their attention and behavior to the quiet command she exuded. Her calm confidence, measured movements, and deliberate observation communicated power without noise, influence without aggression, and control without overt assertion. The ambient warmth of the cafe, the aroma of coffee, and the soft patter of rain outside created a sensory environment that grounded her awareness, allowing her to maintain unshakable focus while subtly guiding the perception and reactions of those around her. Ryan Keller's posture continued to reflect the gradual recognition that the equilibrium of authority had shifted subtly but unmistakably, the silent presence and assured composure of Maya Johnson asserting itself as the defining force within the space, shaping the interaction without a single spoken command, the unfolding moment a testament to restraint, awareness, and deliberate, calculated influence. Time seemed to slow further in the cafe as the weight of anticipation wrapped around every movement, every glance, every subtle adjustment of posture. Maya Johnson remained centered, her awareness extending to the smallest nuances of the environment, noting the reflections of neon lights in the rain-slicked windows and the faint echoes of footsteps outside that punctuated the soft murmur of early patrons. Her satchel rested firmly against her side, a repository of carefully organized materials that symbolized both preparation and authority, each fold and crease deliberately maintained. Officer Ryan Keller shifted again, a subtle tightening of his jaw and a flicker in his eyes revealing the growing awareness that his earlier confidence might have been misplaced. Maya's gaze swept the room methodically, cataloging the positions of tables, chairs, patrons, and staff, each detail mentally mapped and processed with the precision of long practice and meticulous training. The cafe's lighting, warm amber and golden, highlighted her presence, casting shadows that subtly reinforced the poised yet commanding nature of her posture. The soft hiss of the espresso machine and the faint clink of ceramic cups formed a gentle, rhythmic backdrop, yet the charged energy between Maya and Ryan dominated the space, each micro-expression and subtle motion amplified in significance. Maya shifted her stance just slightly, her movement economical yet deliberate, signaling an unspoken command of the environment that did not require a word or gesture beyond its inherent clarity. Outside, the rain intensified, a steady patter against the glass creating elongated streaks of light and shadow, yet the interior remained sharply defined in contrast, a focused stage where every nuance of awareness mattered. Ryan's earlier smirk had all but vanished, replaced by a subtle, cautious assessment, his body language betraying the slow recognition that authority could manifest quietly, without spectacle, and with precise timing. Maya's hands rested lightly on the corners of her satchel, every minor adjustment measured, deliberate, a testament to her attentive control of both space and perception. The murmurs of patrons became background texture, their hushed whispers fading into a subtle awareness that something significant was unfolding, even if they could not yet articulate it. The ambient aroma of freshly roasted coffee beans blended with the soft scent of rain entering through the slightly cracked door, providing sensory grounding that enhanced Maya's clarity of presence and decision-making. Each breath she took was controlled, measured, a quiet metronome that synchronized with the tension in the room while maintaining her equilibrium. The subtle, unspoken dialogue between her and Ryan continued, the balance of power shifting imperceptibly with each deliberate glance, each careful movement, each micro-expression of observation and restraint. Maya's eyes swept across the cafe again, confirming the awareness of others, noting their adjustments, the unconscious recognition of authority and calm control radiating from her presence. Ryan's posture reflected the gradual erosion of perceived dominance, the silent acknowledgment that command could exist without volume, without force, and without overt assertion. Maya's movements remained understated yet potent, her quiet confidence shaping the room, every detail of her environment catalogued and considered, from the gentle sway of hanging light fixtures to the soft shuffle of patrons' feet on the polished floor. The rain outside created a rhythmic accompaniment to the unfolding scene, while the interior dynamics remained intensely focused, a study in controlled influence and situational mastery. Every subtle gesture, every nuanced shift of weight, every small adjustment of gaze and stance conveyed both authority and composure, a reinforcement of the quiet, deliberate power that Maya wielded effortlessly. Ryan Keller's awareness of the shift in energy became increasingly evident in the minute changes in his posture and expression, a testament to the undeniable, though silent, assertion of control emanating from Maya Johnson, a command recognized and acknowledged without a single spoken word, the unfolding moment a demonstration of influence, preparedness, and mastery of perception and presence within the charged environment of the cafe. The moment in the cafe seemed suspended, as if the rain outside and the warm glow inside were conspiring to hold time and place, while every detail of presence and perception mattered infinitely. Maya Johnson's posture remained steady, a silent beacon of measured authority, her eyes scanning subtly, noting the weight of each glance and the way shadows fell across the faces of patrons who were now quietly aware of the tension, their movements and breaths aligning unconsciously with the rhythm she set. Her satchel rested at her side, a constant, unassuming symbol of readiness, yet it seemed to radiate a quiet significance that complemented the deliberate calm she exuded. Officer Ryan Keller shifted once more, a flicker of hesitation passing over his features, the subtle narrowing of his eyes betraying an internal calculation that he had underestimated the depth of awareness and control that Maya maintained effortlessly. The cafe, with its soft hum of activity, the faint hiss of the espresso machine, the clinking of cups, and the occasional shuffle of a chair, had become a stage for a silent yet unmistakable demonstration of influence, where words were unnecessary and presence alone commanded attention. Maya's gaze moved with precise awareness, scanning the light reflecting on the wet pavement outside, the way rain created elongated patterns that seemed to echo the measured flow of her movements, reinforcing the sense that control can exist quietly and subtly, without demand or assertion. Ryan's posture indicated a slow shift in the balance, his earlier confidence tempered by the recognition that authority can manifest in ways that do not rely on force, yet are undeniable in impact. Maya allowed a brief, controlled inhale, a subtle gesture that further anchored her presence, each exhalation releasing tension in a rhythm that seemed to synchronize the subtle energy in the room. Patrons sensed the subtle currents of power without fully understanding them, adjusting their posture, their expressions, the direction of their attention, influenced by the composure and quiet certainty radiating from Maya. Each movement she made was deliberate, measured, a signal of readiness and the silent assertion of authority, every detail of body language and gaze reinforcing the controlled energy of the moment. Ryan's eyes flickered toward her satchel, perhaps aware of the potential it represented, yet unable to react overtly. Each micro-expression a reflection of the silent negotiation of power unfolding. The rain outside intensified, a soft drumming against the glass. Yet within the cafe, every moment was heightened, every breath, glance, and shift of weight magnified in significance as Maya continued to orchestrate the space. With quiet mastery, her fingers brushed lightly against the edge of her satchel, each movement controlled and precise, communicating preparation and awareness in a language that required no sound. Ryan Keller's posture reflected the gradual erosion of his initial assurance, subtle cues betraying the recognition that control could exist without loud proclamation, that influence could be asserted through calm, measured, and deliberate presence alone. Maya's eyes scanned the room again, cataloging every micro-expression, every subtle shift in attention or posture, reinforcing her situational mastery and reinforcing the unspoken hierarchy of awareness and authority she maintained. The cafe's ambient warmth, the faint aroma of roasted coffee beans, and the gentle patter of rain outside created a sensory environment that heightened perception and awareness, anchoring Maya's calm focus and reinforcing the quiet power she wielded. Every subtle adjustment, every measured shift in stance, every deliberate movement of her hands communicated control and poise, influencing the perception of those around her and establishing a quiet but undeniable presence that defined the moment, a testament to the power of awareness, patience, and deliberate, composed mastery of space and perception. The air in the cafe shifted subtly, a quiet yet unmistakable change, as if the space itself recognized the unfolding pivot of awareness. Maya Johnson's gaze remained calm, steady, and precise, sweeping across every corner of the room, taking note of how the light bounced off the polished wood floors and the soft reflections from the glass windows that captured the streaked rain outside. Every detail mattered: the angle of a chair leg, the tilt of a cup, the small ripple of movement from a patron adjusting in their seat. Her posture was straight, composed, yet relaxed, an embodiment of quiet authority that drew attention without demanding it. Officer Ryan Keller's body language reflected the subtle but undeniable shift in the room. His shoulders tightened imperceptibly, a slight furrow appeared on his brow, and his hands lingered a fraction too long near the edges of the counter, the tension in his movements betraying the creeping realization that his assumptions about control were changing. Maya allowed a controlled exhale, a measured gesture that anchored her presence, reinforcing the calm decisiveness radiating from her. The ambient sounds of the cafe, the hiss of the espresso machine, the soft clinking of cups, the quiet rustle of napkins, created a rhythmic background that contrasted sharply with the focused attention of the two figures at the center. Rain continued to fall steadily outside, the wet streets casting long, reflective streaks of light into the room, merging with the warm amber glow of the interior to create a cinematic palette that mirrored the intensity of the moment. Maya shifted her weight slightly, a small, deliberate motion, communicating awareness and readiness without a single word, the subtle sway of her stance reinforcing her control over both space and perception. Patrons responded unconsciously, their posture and gaze adjusting to the quiet authority she projected, a microcosm of recognition that authority does not always require confrontation. Ryan's eyes flickered momentarily toward her satchel, perhaps sensing its significance, yet he hesitated, the mental calculus of understanding power without overt display manifesting in the small, almost imperceptible changes in his stance and expression. Maya's movements were economical, precise, and deliberate. The way she adjusted her grip on the strap, the subtle tilt of her head, the measured cadence of her breathing, all of it coalesced into an unspoken communication of control. The subtle interplay of light, shadow, and reflection within the cafe amplified the tension, each shimmer and contrast highlighting the unspoken power dynamic between the two. Ryan's expression continued to show the gradual erosion of certainty, his prior confidence tempered by the steady, unyielding presence of Maya's calm authority. Every detail of her awareness, from scanning the room to monitoring reactions, contributed to an invisible orchestration, guiding the energy of the café without needing to speak or assert overtly. The soft hum of conversation from other patrons faded further into the background as the subtle dynamics of attention, posture, and perception dominated the space, reinforcing the notion that influence can be exercised quietly, deliberately, and unmistakably. Maya's fingers moved slightly over her satchel, a small, controlled gesture, signaling readiness, attention, and command without aggression. Rain drummed softly against the windows, a rhythmic backdrop to the unfolding scene. Yet inside the café, time seemed suspended, every second magnified, every subtle motion imbued with significance, creating a tableau of calm authority, deliberate influence, and the quiet assertion of presence that reshaped the energy of the entire space, leaving Ryan Keller acutely aware of the shift in dynamic and the undeniable competence and composure that defined Maya Johnson's command. The café seemed to exhale as if the room itself acknowledged the culmination of the quiet tension, the amber light reflecting off polished surfaces, the rain outside painting streaked impressions across the glass windows. Maya Johnson remained poised, every inch of her presence radiating calm authority, her gaze sweeping deliberately across the space, noting the subtle gestures, the slight movements of patrons, the way the air itself seemed to shift in response to her controlled energy. Officer Ryan Keller straightened, his earlier posture of unchecked confidence replaced by measured awareness, his eyes tracking Maya's every movement with a new sense of attentiveness, an acknowledgment of the unspoken shift that had taken place. Her satchel rested against her side, the soft leather catching the warm glow of the overhead lights, each crease and fold immaculate, symbolizing preparation, readiness, and the quiet power of deliberate intent. The gentle hiss of the espresso machine, the clinking of cups, and the muted shuffling of chairs created a subdued rhythm, contrasting with the charged presence between Maya and Ryan, each subtle motion now loaded with significance. Maya exhaled slowly, a controlled breath that further anchored her presence and extended the quiet influence she held over the environment. The reflections of neon lights from the wet pavement outside cast elongated, shifting patterns across the floor, echoing the unspoken choreography of observation, awareness, and authority she maintained. Ryan's hands twitched slightly at his sides, the micro-adjustments betraying the internal recognition that control could be asserted without loud declarations or overt gestures, a lesson in subtle but undeniable influence. Maya's eyes flicked briefly to a corner security camera, noting the angle and the way it captured the scene, her awareness encompassing every visual element within the space, reinforcing the silent, precise orchestration of her environment. Patrons unconsciously adjusted their posture and attention, their movements softened, their expressions subtly changed, all reflecting the quiet command of presence she projected without a single word. The soft rhythm of rain intensified, the consistent drumming against the windows adding to the sensory texture, grounding Maya's composure and highlighting the contrast between the calm of her poise and the lingering uncertainty in Ryan's demeanor. Each measured shift of her weight, every slight movement of her hands, and every deliberate glance conveyed controlled authority, a narrative of influence and awareness that reshaped the dynamic of the room entirely. Ryan's breathing became more even, his posture slightly less rigid, the subtle recognition of the shifted balance of power clear in the fine details of his expression. Maya's focus encompassed both the broader environment and the micro details of human behavior, the way chairs angled, how cups were held, the tension in shoulders, all cataloged and understood without haste or distraction. The café's warm interior, the steady rain outside, and the soft ambient noise coalesced into a tableau that emphasized the quiet mastery of observation, perception, and situational awareness, leaving Ryan acutely aware that the balance of authority had been recalibrated in an unspoken, deliberate, and undeniable way. Maya's subtle gestures, the deliberate positioning of her body, and the calm confidence in her gaze communicated a complete command of the moment, the space, and the people within it, illustrating that influence does not require volume, only awareness, precision, and the composed assertion of presence that quietly yet powerfully defines the equilibrium of the room.